Hey guys, Britt here. Welcome to End Times Bible Prophecy. Make sure to hit the subscribe, like, and share buttons. Well, how will advanced technology trigger End Times Bible Prophecy events? In other words, can we see a way in which advanced technology will lead to the fulfillment of the events we read about in the Bible for the end times? And I believe the answer is yes. We're going to look at one of those in particular today. But first, I want to take a look at this right here. So this is a follow-up video to this four-person panel discussion we had a week and a half ago. So that was John Holler, Scott Townsend, Tom Hughes, and myself. So I said I would do this follow-up video and answer questions if people put questions in the comments. So there weren't a whole lot on technology, but there were a lot of questions. I'll answer those at the end of this video. So if you had a question, just stay tuned. I'm going to answer those questions at the end of this video. But I wanted to address one subject in particular that we didn't have time to get to in that video. And I think that's probably we need to do a follow-up just on this topic, but it's the role of advanced technology in military applications and how that specifically relates to Bible prophecy, because something that I've been trying to communicate for many years, many of you know this that have been watching this channel for a while, is that as these technologies mature, they will result in a global empire. That's the trajectory. That's what is on the other side of creating these technologies, not because someone will take advantage of them to use that, but because that's where they will push the world. No matter what the motivations are, the people who hold those technologies, the result will be a global empire. And we've been hearing this for many years. If you remember, this was in 2017. It says, Vladimir Putin says the nation that leads in artificial intelligence will be ruler of the world. So he understands this. Many other nations' leaders understand this. And we need to understand this because this is something where for 20 years or over 20 years I've been writing about these topics on specifically that unless Bible, back then I would say, well, you know, unless Bible prophecy is fulfilled in some other way, these technologies are going to lead to the establishment of a global empire, thus fulfilling Bible prophecy, because there's nothing in the Bible that says there's going to be this multiple succession of global empires. It just says this one at the end will be the final one destroyed by Jesus. So once technology gets to a place where it necessitates the creation of a global empire, which is what we're going to walk through today, how that will happen, then that means that must fulfill Bible prophecy. And guys, we're getting very close to that time. So at that time, go back in time 20 years ago when I'm saying, hey, we're sort of noticing these things, but it's off. It's not going to happen tomorrow. This is a couple of decades or more into the future. So, Bible prophecy could be fulfilled in other ways, but we're looking at these trends, and if the trends continue, we're going to see technological advancement and Bible prophecy sort of cross over into one another at this point in the future. Well, here we are a couple of decades into the future. So a lot of those articles I wrote on Rapture Ready back in 2007 talking about these things, that was 17 years ago. Now we're seeing those things happen. So why will this happen? Well, as we see artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and molecular manufacturing reach critical mass, as those technologies mature, what will happen is mutual assured destruction will become obsolete. So for those that don't know, since the end of World War II, mutual assured destruction has been what has prevented World War III from occurring, because major nuclear powers know if they go to war with one another, there's no victor in that war. Everything gets destroyed on both sides. So that's what's prevented a major war. It's why we're seeing a proxy war in Ukraine, and why there hopefully is reluctance for Russia and NATO to go into all-out war against one another, is because of mutual assured destruction. But guys, mutual assured destruction is on the verge of becoming obsolete. And many people don't realize that. The conventional wisdom is, well, this will always be in place. These major powers won't go to war because they'll destroy themselves as well as their opponents, so they would never do that. But as we know, the wisdom of this world is foolishness often. And this conventional wisdom is wrong, because mutual assured destruction will soon be obsolete. And we have one of the reasons. So let's think about this for a moment. Think about, okay, nuclear weapons capabilities. If I'm going to attack another nation that has nuclear weapons, and I'm afraid they're going to use those to destroy me, what keeps MAD in place now? And I would argue that really the only thing keeping it in place now is the presence of nuclear-armed submarines. The ocean is a vast area, a vast space to cover. Even if another nation thought, well, we've cracked a code, we've figured out, we know where these submarines are, our enemy's submarines. Well, you have to be able to keep them from launching, but you would also have to wonder, is there another one I don't know about out there somewhere? So certainly if you have mostly long ago, land-based missile silo launchers that were in a fixed place, those were rendered obsolete because it became clear, well, the enemy knows where they are. In a preemptive strike, they take them out, and now we're defenseless. So it's really the nuclear-armed subs that are keeping MAD in place to this day. That brings us to this article right here from World Defense 2024. So I believe this is showing us the early stages of how that's going to be rendered obsolete. And when I say early stages, I don't mean it's going to take decades for this to develop. I mean, we're in the very early stages of this technology that's growing exponentially. So it's only a matter of really a few years, 2, 3, 7, I don't know. I don't know how many years, but it's not going to be long. And we'll discuss that in a moment. But let's see what this says. This says French underwater drone swarm maker bids to reshape maritime surveillance missions. It says a official told Breaking Defense that the micro AUV market is relatively niche, but new startups are beginning to pop up, and it's likely a similar trend to the proliferation of uncrewed aerial systems and uncrewed ground combat systems will soon emerge in the naval domain. So we're talking about, we've seen these drones on the battlefield in Ukraine, we've seen drones in the Red Sea, seen drones in the air, we've seen drones on the ground in Ukraine. We've seen limited amounts of really unmanned boats, we'll call it that, in Ukraine as well as in the Red Sea. But here we're talking about the proliferation of unmanned drones in the water as well, so land, sea, and air. So it says a French family-run underwater micro-drone startup is challenging international navies to rethink subsurface intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance missions, and consider using a host of smaller unmanned systems and swarms designed to listen for enemy ships' acoustic signatures by staying on the seabed or in current en masse for months at a time. Archeocean, based north of Nice and displaying its wares here at the World Defense Show in Saudi Arabia this week, said it recently completed French Navy sea trials of the company's Lelantos loitering autonomous underwater vehicle swarm in Toulon, providing the new platform's proof of concept. We took part in April 2023 in the French Navy exercise Orion, where we developed a small swarm. And following that, in December, we did further trials that were more expansive, again with the French Navy, using Lelantos, their chief marketing officer said. So I want you to think of this. They're looking at underwater surveillance. Imagine the drones we see on the land. They land some of these drones on the seabed. Now, again, this is a limited area. The ocean is vast. So they want to surveil a particular area. And so they land these on the seabed and they're communicating with each other. And they can detect through acoustic signatures if there are enemy subs in the area and then relay that information back to military command. So let's keep this in mind because this is ultimately very early stage right here, but this is how mutual assured destruction or the threat of nuclear-armed submarines will be rendered obsolete, which changes the entire global balance of power overnight. So let's see what this says. It says, measuring 70 centimeters or just over 2 feet in length, the manufacturer says Lelantos can be programmed to cover an underwater perimeter of interest. Again, so this is a limited area, using a patented acoustic listening device dubbed Seeker, designed to record acoustic signatures of surrounding vessels that can be fed back to naval commanders, who in turn determine how to take action against any threats. Acoustic recording is the most efficient way to look for data. If the AUVs recognize one of the signatures they need to recognize, they come up to the surface in around 3 seconds. When you're deploying a single remote operating vehicle or autonomous underwater vehicle, you're not covering a lot of ground. So our approach has been to scale up. That's a key phrase right there, scale up, because that's what we're going to talk about how all this changes the world very, very soon. It says a smaller AUV called Olmec, measuring just 20 inches, has been designed to act as a part of a bottom ocean sentinel swarm to create underwater barriers of protection from the seabed to the current. Based on that concept, strategic sites could be more effectively protected against naval threats instead of the more conventional method of relying on what's happening above water with surface assets. So guys, once they talk in here about scaling up. So here they're talking about hundreds of drones potentially in an area. But once you can scale up, and that's the key, what am I trying to say? The key strength or the key capability. That's the capability that every military on the globe is looking for right now, is that ability to scale up en masse. And what will give them that ability is a technology called molecular manufacturing. It's this bottom-up process where you build at the molecular scale, molecule by molecule, stacking them on each other, bringing them together where chemical bonds would either be formed or broken, and having computer control over that. Once you have that, you can very efficiently and inexpensively manufacture these drones, much smaller drones, much more capable drones, on a scale of millions, and then billions, and then trillions. So scaling up, that's what we've talked about. The United States Department of Defense issued back in August the Replicator Initiative, where they talked about deploying thousands of air, land, and sea-based drones simultaneously. They're talking about scaling up. The French are talking about scaling up. Everybody understands the wave of the future in defense is to be able to scale up these disposable munitions, these drones, and use them in mass. And the investment is going to come in the AI systems, the quantum computing, the things that are powering these systems, but you have to be able to build them cheaply and inexpensively so you can send wave after wave. Once you can do that, think of this concept of acoustic signatures. And instead of a small area, imagine that you could create trillions of small drones that settle all across the ocean floor, all around the globe, that float with the currents, that it would be the equivalent of flipping a switch and the light comes on in the entire ocean. So a power that has that capability would be able to see what's happening in the oceans, all the world's waterways, and they would know precisely where any one of those enemy submarines are. And this isn't a new concept. We've been talking about this. So I want to take a look at this book right here. Many of you are familiar with this. It's right over my shoulder here. I wrote this book it came out 7 years ago, but again, it's based on these writings from 20 years ago. Racing Toward Armageddon, Why Advanced Technology Signals the End Times, because we're seeing this start to take place right now, and it heralds the end of the age. So let's read just this paragraph right here that really describes this. It says, a nation with nanofactories, so that would be the output of molecular manufacturing. You can use those words indistinguishably for purposes of what we're talking about. But a nation with molecular manufacturing could rapidly deploy billions of low-cost machines, both small and large. These machines could have a wide range of capabilities we've long thought impossible. Imagine machines able to comb the oceans in search of enemy submarines. Better yet, imagine machines that can disable those nuclear subs. Now imagine similar acts of sabotage against land-based and space-based nuclear facilities and conventional military forces. A nation with post-MAD technologies will be able to perform those feats that seem like science fiction today. In a matter of hours, if not minutes, such a nation could overpower its enemies. Those enemies will be utterly defenseless. This means a nation with molecular manufacturing could conquer at will without fear of nuclear retaliation, because mutually assured destruction will be obsolete. Again, let's go look at, this is the End Times Bible Prophecy newsletter from September 2017. This was an article put out, The Next Manhattan Project in the New World Order. We hit on this in that as well. So if we scroll down a little bit, this shows how things have changed, because now we'd reference the war in Ukraine or Israel, Hamas. But this says the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan have given the world a glimpse of unmanned drone technology. What happens is those drones become smaller and more powerful. What happens when swarms of drones the size of bees or mosquitoes attack a conventional army? What happens if they attack nuclear warheads? What happens? What if swarms of tiny submarines hunt down and disable nuclear submarines? New technologies will make these scenarios possible. So guys, we talked about this in a previous video. This is what's coming. Here we have a picture of a swarm of bees. This is decentralized. You can kill one bee, you can kill 10 bees, you can kill half of these bees. The rest will continue to operate as a group. That's where we're heading militarily with the use of drones, smaller drones. Now we see these we've gone from these giant drones on the battlefield 20 years ago with the US invasion of Iraq to now we have these, 20, 30-inch drones operating in packs of 20 or 30, and they fly over the area where we're going to get even smaller. We're going to get to this scale right here, and they're going to be controlled by AI. A lot of the drone swarms we see now aren't decentralized. They have like a queen that operates high above the battlefield and sends messages to the others. Take that queen out, you take out the whole swarm. Well, as AI becomes more sophisticated in controlling these drones, these swarms will become decentralized, meaning that they'll be much harder to defend against, much harder to take out. Because as you can imagine, right now, you've already talked about in the Red Sea, the problems that we're having with a $20,000 drone comes in and it's taken out with $1 million missile. Well, when this comes in to the battlefield, a missile probably isn't even going to take out one. You could fire a missile in the middle of this and it would probably just go right through them. It's probably not going to take out one of these things. So that's where we're headed in the air. We see that, but guys, the same thing can happen underwater. Look at this. We don't call these underwater swarms, but we would call this a school of fish that operate in a very similar fashion to the swarms of locusts and bees we see, or flocks of birds. They all seem to move in tandem. Here's another example. Isn't it amazing what God has created? But imagine that we take the same concept, and these are mechanized drones controlled by AI, and maybe your nuclear submarine's inside of this as they swarm around it. So we'll have the capability, once we see molecular manufacturing come into existence, and artificial intelligence is going to accelerate that and overcome the obstacles that are in place right now to achieving that breakthrough in molecular manufacturing. But once we see that, again, they'll be able to deploy trillions of microscopic drones all over the world's oceans, light up the oceans. You'll find out where your enemy subs are, and then you send, a school of mechanized underwater drones to render those nuclear subs impotent, so to speak. So maybe they can't even fire the nuclear warhead at all. And so, at that point, mutual assured destruction is done. What does that mean? Well, let's go back to our article from before, and we can find out exactly what that means. It says the nation, and I would say, or group of nations, let's say that it's, a group of 10 nations, right? No reason I picked that number, but the nation that first develops artificial intelligence and molecular manufacturing will have an enormous military advantage over the rest of the world. Mutual assured destruction will be obsolete, and the leading nation will have superior weapons. This nation will have two choices. It can sit on its advantage until other nations catch up, and I would say that's probably highly unlikely that the other nation would ever catch up, because these technologies are growing exponentially. So if you fall behind at the beginning, you stay behind unless that nation somehow finds a way to suppress that and stop growing exponentially, which I don't know why they would do that, or if they even could do that at that point. But whoever has the lead in this probably has an insurmountable lead. But it says, or it can use its advantage to conquer other nations. It will choose the second option. How can I be so sure? Because the first option, allowing other powers to emerge, will result in an unstable arms race that will probably and I would take away probably and say certainly, it's just a matter of when, lead to worldwide annihilation. Remember, mutual assured destruction will no longer be effective, and post-MAD weapons will be even more powerful than nuclear weapons. So it's inevitable the leading nation will use its advantage to establish a global empire. Vladimir Putin knows this. That's why he said the one who becomes the leader in this sphere will be the ruler of the world. I'm sure he imagines he'll win that race and establish a world empire for himself. But regardless of who wins, the leading nation, or 10 nations, will draw the same conclusion. The global government or global empire is the only available course of action. So guys, there you have it. As we see these technologies mature, and we're getting to a point now where I'm past saying there's a high probability this could happen to, we're right at the verge of saying this is how it's going to happen. This is how it's going to happen. The nation that develops molecular manufacturing first and can scale up in mass using artificial intelligence and all its capabilities, quantum computing, which I'm sure will become much more viable as AI works out all the kinks, because artificial intelligence is going to help us reach these breakthroughs at a much faster pace than would otherwise happen. So once all that happens, whoever has that will be able to conquer the globe without fear of nuclear annihilation. And they will do that regardless of their motivation or intentions, whether it's a so-called evil person or a wonderful democracy, does not matter. They're going to look at, okay, if we don't do this, what happens? Oh, the destruction of the world. So let's conquer the world. We'll conquer the globe, make sure nobody else has this technology. And of course, it's a whole nother video we could talk about. One person with this technology could be a threat. So now we have to have global surveillance of everything, right? To prevent the terrorist threat. That's a whole nother video. But all of this points to exactly what we read about in the Bible, where we have a global empire and people say, who can make war against the beast? So guys, it's coming. Mutual assured destruction will be overturned in the very near future. This isn't decades away. When it comes, we will quickly, almost immediately, see a global empire established. I think it will take the world by surprise when this happens. Because again, most people have heard of artificial intelligence, quantum computing. Molecular manufacturing isn't on the radar of most people in the world. They have no idea that this technology is out there, that it's being developed, and what its capabilities are, what the implications of it being developed are. So that's that's where we stand. I think this will ultimately trigger the fulfillment of many of these end times Bible prophecy events that we read about. So now that we've covered that, let's go to questions that we had. And again, there weren't a whole lot of technology questions, but we'll answer all of the questions. So here we had the first one. This says, this is from Nell Sweet 1. It says, question, hi Britt, what is your take on Apple Pay payment system being terminated? Does it have something to do with the IMF or the Bank of International Settlements or central bank digital currency? I'm not really sure what's being talked about here, so leave a follow-up question if I don't get on this, but I don't see any. This is the only thing I could find about Apple Pay, was that it was down for Chase customers for a while a couple of weeks ago, but I don't see that it's been terminated. It looks like Apple Pay is still operating. But guys, remember the Bank of International Settlements. So if you look at the rollout of central bank digital currency, the Bank of International Settlements has this thing called Project Icebreaker, where they want to basically set the template for all of the central bank digital currencies. So they roll out this technology, and they're pitch is, hey, well, you develop your central bank digital currency. It's yours, but you should use this particular platform and these standards because we'll facilitate the cross-border payments. Meaning, if you want to exchange Indian rupees into, Japanese yen, we can make that exchange of those central bank digital currencies because we have this model. Well, that would effectively put them at the top of that model. So, and Apple Pay, Amazon Pay, Palm Pay, all of these things, regular credit cards, all of that stuff is just going to be touch points at the end point of the central bank digital currency. So you'll still have digital programmable currency. I don't think that they would look to necessarily take out any of these payment methods because they'll all be a part of that overall program. So hope that answers your question. If not, leave a follow-up one on this video and I'll address it. Here's one from the What's Up. It says, I thought you meant money as we knew it was going away too. I heard the collapse meant a fall. Our currency and banks would be gone, followed by a world currency, then universal basic income later. For now, the collapse of banks and government would lead to no money because the government would not guarantee our accounts. Please explain what you meant. So, again, addressing what we just said, I don't know that there will ever be a single world currency. So there will be a single point of control at which buying and selling can be cut off. And again, the Bank of International Settlements is trying to position itself to be in that role where you may have every nation in the world has its own central bank digital currency, but they're all controlled centrally at the Bank of International Settlements or the IMF or some other organization yet to be at the top of that could turn those on and off, program them however they want. So all that remains to be seen. But in regard to what is happening with the current banking crisis, global depression, what's going to come, I think the best place to go to get an idea, an illustration of how this is all going to play out is right here. And I will put this link in the comments. I'll pin this link in the comments, but this is from the Hidden Secrets of Money, episode 7 with Mike Maloney, where I believe he very well illustrates what is coming, what we're really on the cusp of now. I think this banking crisis we're going to see is the beginning of that. And if you go to the 20-minute, 14-second mark right about here, he talks through this passage in his book where he explains what is going to take place, and it uses animation, these computer-generated graphics to give an idea that really will help you understand that we're most likely, not 100%, but most likely we're going into a depression type event similar to the Great Depression, very deflationary, where the currency supply shrinks and we see massive bankruptcies. We see people, we don't see the inflation that we've seen of late. We see just the exact opposite. But the response to that from the politicians of the world who will look at their power dwindling away because people lose their jobs, they lose their houses, all these things happen that we saw happen during the Great Depression. Well, that's going to lead to them going, I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to get voted out of office. So what is their response going to be? Their response is going to be, well, let's send everybody a check, right? So maybe that's the universal basic income that you're describing there is they will start sending out checks for groceries. Hey, everybody gets $1,000 a month for groceries because groceries are just unaffordable now. I can't believe those companies are price gouging, right? Not realizing that the reason the prices are going up is because the government is printing more currency. And then they'll say, well, now prices are even worse. We need to give everybody $2,000 a month and then $4,000 and on and on. And they'll just start handing out cash payments left and right all over the world until we have massive hyperinflation. So first, I believe we see a deflationary spiral similar to the Great Depression, probably 12 to 18 months, very severe. The reaction to that is going to be to go in the complete opposite direction, hand out all these cash payments that then lead to a loss of faith in the currency as people try to spend that as quickly as they get it because they know it's losing its purchasing power. And that's when you have hyperinflation. The problem we have today is, for the first time in history, the last 50 years, all the world's currencies are fiat currencies at the same time, meaning there's no other place to run to. You know, in Weimar, Germany, when they had hyperinflation, people got dollars, they got British pounds, and they transacted in those. But what happens when all the currencies of the world are fiat currencies? It's not going to be a pretty sight. So hopefully that explains that. If not, again, leave a follow-up question. Here's one that says, I don't see how one can evade digital money. My retirement and Social Security are directly sent to my bank, even with cash out. Then how would we get our money unless we agreed to digital? And unfortunately, I agree with you. I don't see how you can evade digital money in that instance. I think eventually the Bible tells us the whole world is going to be brought into the system. Again, when we see the rollout of central bank digital currency, these programmable currencies, that is not the mark of the beast. The mark of the beast will come during the tribulation period. So if this is the way that there's some period of time in the interim where this is rolled out, but it's not yet the tribulation, and this is how you get your Social Security, well, that's just going to be the way that it is. We can fight that the best we can, push back against it, but it looks like that is what is coming. But again, you know, what can you do about it? Probably nothing. And it isn't the mark of the beast, so you don't have to worry about that. The mark of the beast, again, we talked about this before, is not something people will take by accident. The mark of the beast is going to be a conscious decision to give your allegiance to the Antichrist and reject Jesus Christ. So, you know, unfortunately, yes, it looks like they're going to roll these out at some point in the future. How soon remains to be seen, but I don't think there's any way around it. And we have a comment here that says, I had someone say I shouldn't warn people about the end times and what is happening because of the following verse, Philippians 4:8. Finally, brethren, whatever things are true, whatever things are noble, whatever things are just, whatever things are pure, whatever things are lovely, whatever things are of good report, if there is any virtue and if there is anything praiseworthy, meditate on these things. So based on that, somebody believes that we shouldn't warn about the end times and what is happening. I would say that's absolutely false. That's an incorrect notion because, well, what's more pure and true and lovely than the Word of God? And when we talk about the end times and the events that we can see playing out in the world, we're referring to the Bible. And then, of course, Revelation 19:10 says the essence of prophecy is to give a clear witness for Jesus. So hopefully as we're telling people about the end times, we're telling them about the hope we have in Jesus Christ. And so what could be better to focus on than that? What could be more just and pure and lovely and of good report? Nothing could be better than that. Don't let people who say this persuade you in any way to stop warning people. We need to warn people. Again, we talked in the last video about we don't need to just warn people about a banking crisis, because if somebody doesn't know Jesus, they have a lot to fear, and it's not from all of the events we just talked about. It's from the coming judgment. So only those who know Christ can escape that judgment through the blood of the Lamb shed on the cross that gave forgiveness of our sins. So if you don't know Jesus, that's the most important thing you can do. And there's nothing better to be talking about than that good news that Jesus, he shed his blood on the cross and he rose again from the dead. He lives in victory. There's nothing better than that. So, last question, Britt, are you sitting or standing? If you're standing, why not make it so you can sit? It must be tiring to stand that long. Well, yes, I am standing right now. So all of these videos, I'm standing. I did that on purpose because somewhere around, 25 years ago with the rise of the computer age, I found that I was more and more being sat down in front of a computer, right? Whether it was to do homework or work for a 9-to-5 job or do these videos, write the articles, some of which we just read, all of these things. I was in front of a computer. Then so much of everything we do in everyday life is on computers now. You order tickets for a play or anything like that. You're online all the time. And of course, in my family, a lot of the kids come to me and say, can you print this? Can you sign me up for this? Can you do this? So I'm on the computer all the time, it seems like. And when you're sitting, that takes a toll on your body. So all of these videos are always standing. I've constructed a standing desk. I'll pull up some pictures and show you that workspace here in the near future. But yeah, I stand pretty much all day long now, except for meals. Meals is when I sit down, and then at the very end of the day. Other than that, I stand, I try to move around because of all of this work that's done on computers and online. If I sat all day, I would have a whole lot less energy and I'd probably get sick. So yeah, I'm standing all the time. So, and on that note, we looked at that End Times Bible Prophecy newsletter from 2017. For those who liked that sort of ended. It went away in January of 2023 because, we were moving. We had so much going on. I just couldn't keep up that pace and these videos. That's going to make a comeback here in the very, very near future. We got some exciting news to roll out where I'm going to be a lot more productive based on some of these changes I've made, such as a stand-up desk so that I have more energy and I'm trying to eat better. I'm trying to do all the things Paul said, train like an athlete because we have a race to run and we can see the finish line. So we need to be doing everything we can. So stay tuned for that because I think you're going to like what's going to roll out soon. So let me know what you think. Leave your comments below. Any questions you have, make sure to hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons. And God willing, I will see you on Wednesday. Bye. If you want to learn more about the end times and Bible prophecy, make sure to sign up for my free monthly newsletter and get your copy of my free ebook, 7 Signs of the End Times. Just follow the link in the description to get your free book. Also, make sure to check out all of my books. Just look up Britt Gillette on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Apple iBooks, Google Books, Kobo, or anywhere books are sold. Thanks for watching today, and until next time, keep your eyes fixed on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith.